I don't think there's any question that the anti-Semitism on college campuses is rampant. What we see across America, I shouldn't even say rampant. For many of us, we knew it was here. I think for other people, they're just surprised at how open and honest and free these people are with not only manipulation of data, but with their hate and their desire to see Israel wiped off a map and Jews dead. There are places where they're going to city council meetings and throwing money at Jewish members. See, you're bought and paid for. I mean, living the life of this absolute and insane hate. That's happening. It's happening on college campuses, being supported by professors and administrators who are woefully silent. But is there a role for Congress to actually play in all this? I mean, is this something for Congress to look into? That's an interesting question. Welcome to the show, presented by Americans for Prosperity, americansforprosperity.org, economic liberty and free speech. That's what I'm talking about. This right here is Congressman Jim Banks of the Indiana 3rd District. That's the Fort Wayne area, candidate for Senate, Republican for Senate in the state of Indiana. I want to get to this because of a piece you put out, a letter that you have out. But before I do, can we get to two things really quickly, sir, which is your vote against the continuing resolution. This was the stopgap put forth by the new speaker, Mike Johnson. It works in two phases. A couple of things have to be settled before like mid-end of January, a couple of things before the first couple of days in February. If it wasn't this, it would have been a different continuing resolution that would have cut 8% across the board, except for defense spending. You voted no on the first one. What was the rationale?
Well, Tony, the continuing resolution continues the Biden, Pelosi, Schumer spending from last Congress another couple of months into this Congress. So what does that mean? That means $2 trillion annual deficits, adding to an already $34 trillion national debt without any spending cuts, without any more dollars to go to secure the border, without leveraging the spending deadline to do something to rein in wasteful spending for our country. I couldn't go along with it. I voted against the omnibus when Pelosi was the speaker, and this CR merely continues the spending pace from the last Congress. It's foolish. It's dangerous. It's why we are where we are with the $34 trillion national debt, and I'm not going to go along with it, even if my Republican leaders are telling me to.
Is that seen as a repudiation of a guy you voted for speaker? And maybe more to the point, how is this continuing resolution different than what got Kevin McCarthy fired?
Yeah, I voted against that continuing resolution too, Tony, for the exact same reason. It continues the spending levels. But by the way, today we pay more on the interest for our national debt than we spend on the entire budget of the Pentagon to keep America safe and secure. So the continuing resolution back in September, the continuing resolution this week continues that pace. I don't care what you call it. For me, I can't go along with it. I voted against it because it's wasteful spending. Again, I voted against all of the omnibus big spending bills when Donald Trump was president. I voted against all of them as Joe Biden has been president. A $34 trillion national debt is the biggest threat to the American dream for my kids and your grandkids that we've ever seen in this country. I'm not going to go along with it, whether it's under a Republican or a Democrat.
This brings us to a second thing that took place, which was Marjorie Taylor Greene, the representative from Georgia, moving forward with wanting to impeach the Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas. And that did not go through. And people noted in my beloved Indiana, your beloved Indiana, that you were not a no vote. You did not vote. And people want to know why.
Yeah, Congressman Larry Bouchon from Evansville and I traveled to Africa. We were in Djibouti and then in Kenya. We visited a remote military base in Kenya to visit our Indiana National Guard troops. 130 of our Hoosier heroes are deployed in Manda Bay, Kenya, on an important mission. I serve on the Armed Services Committee. Tony, I've been deployed myself. I know what it's like to leave my family and go serve abroad. And Larry Bouchon and I were able to travel with the governor of Oklahoma, both of the senators from Oklahoma, to go visit our troops. We got back late on Monday night, but let me make this very clear. The vote on Monday night was not for impeaching Mayorkas. It was a procedural vote that Democrats forced to send the impeachment vote back to the Homeland Security Committee. I spoke with Marjorie Taylor Greene on the floor yesterday, and and by the way, I fully support impeaching Mayorkas, but there are a bunch of Republicans who voted with the Democrats to table the impeachment vote, to bring it back later, to stall it. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to keep pushing for a final vote for impeachment. So I hope that happens very soon. Secretary Mayorkas has done a horrible job in his role. The border is wide open. By the way, I support impeaching Joe Biden for these reasons as well. Opening the border wide open, the humanitarian crisis at the border, the drug crisis in our country, over 1 million illegals processed and released into the United States in the last year alone, and all of the crime and the other issues that have come with it. There are lots of reasons to impeach Mayorkas and Joe Biden, but the vote on Monday was not an impeachment vote, and anybody that tells you that is lying about it. It was a procedural motion to table it, and Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to keep pushing to get that final impeachment vote to the floor as soon as possible.
Talking to Congressman Jim Banks of the Indiana 3rd District, candidate for Senate, Republican candidate for Senate in Indiana. Were you in the House yesterday when the word went forth that you weren't allowed to leave the office buildings? You weren't allowed to enter the office buildings because the pro-Palestinian, which I often view as pro-Hamas protesters, were out there in force, whether it be in front of the DNC or trying to make their case for ceasefire in this very, what is described as violent way. Were you in your office at that time?
No, I was gone from the office buildings at that point. Our voting was over earlier in the day, but I saw the videos and, heard from some of my colleagues who were in the House office buildings. And you can see from the videos, very violent protests. You had U.S. Capitol police officers who were injured in the process. They need to be handled in the same way that the January 6th protesters who harmed police officers were handled. So I'm going to be calling for the Justice Department to prosecute these protesters that injured our heroes here on Capitol Hill, the Capitol police officers who keep us safe every single day. So we'll see if there is if the same set of rules and justice are applied to those protesters as those on January 6th. I hope that'll be the case.
To this end, in this conversation about anti-Semitism, sir, this was from your team. Rep Banks, that's you, probes alleged anti-Semitism at IU student government. IU is Indiana University. You, being a member of the House Education Workforce Committee, request a briefing from Pam Whitten, who's the president of Indiana University, regarding the university's response to anti-Semitism within the Indiana University student government. Now, when IU first put out their statement regarding the Hamas terrorist attack on Israel, this was the statement, and it was very, very generic. IU is heartbroken over the horrific violence that has occurred over the past few days. With heartfelt empathy and compassion, we stand ready to provide comprehensive counseling and support services to assist our students, faculty, and staff affected by these attacks. And then she ends it with, or it ends with, let us continue IU's long-held tradition as a caring community that supports one another through challenging times. This was seen as wholly unacceptable and a level of not recognizing the brutality of the attack. As the Indiana Daily Student then pointed out, a new statement was released. This was a very strong statement from Pam Whitten, clearly one that she had to be kind of pushed into giving. But you're not talking about what Pam Whitten said or didn't say. You're talking about the Indiana University student government. What is it that made you think a probe is the way to go?
Well, first of all, we've seen a giant increase on college campuses in America in the cases of anti-Semitism, a 400% increase in cases over the last year. And yesterday, Tony, and in the education committee that I'm a part of in the House, we had a hearing in our committee on this specific issue. So I became aware yesterday of, at first, it was 2 members of the Indiana University student government who resigned in protest of the student body president and alleged remarks that she had made online about Jewish students. Later, I've been told 5 more members of the student government have resigned in protest, and I want to know what the hell is going on there. Why isn't Indiana University doing more to make sure that Jewish students on campus feel safe to go to class? We've heard reports all over the country, but also at IU, that Jewish students don't feel safe, and we have a responsibility that on a college campus, especially one with a rich diversity like at Indiana University. I'm a graduate of IU, so it's a very diverse and rich place to attend school, but to make sure that our students feel safe, especially Jewish students right now with what's going on around the world and the rise of anti-Semitic behavior on college campuses, to make sure that they feel safe. So I'm asking the president to brief me. I have a good relationship with the administration at Indiana University. We dialogue on a lot of important issues that go on there. And never forget, IU is the recipient of a lot of federal funding that helps them run the university.
Can't we say that, sir, about a series of? Can we say it about Purdue? Can we say it about Ball State, Butler University, University of Indianapolis, Notre Dame? We could talk about Wabash. We could talk about DePaul. We have a tremendous amount of universities in the state of Indiana. Does this issue not exist on other campuses?
It might. It very well might. But the reports of student members of the student government resigning in protest at IU led to the letter. If a constituent or a student from Purdue University reaches out to me about incidents at Purdue or any other college campus, I'll be happy to reach out to the administration of those colleges to ask for more information or briefings on what's going on there too. I mean, none of that changes the fact that anti-Semitism on college campuses is growing, and we have a responsibility as leaders to do everything that we can to make sure that students feel safe to go to class, especially Jewish students at a time like this.
Let's engage the responsibility part, sir. Talking to Congressman Jim Banks of the Indiana 3rd District, that's the Fort Wayne area, Republican candidate for Senate in the state of Indiana. Let's go back to your statement. It starts with Rep. Banks probes alleged anti-Semitism at IU student government. This would make one think that you, as a member of Congress, are launching a probe, a congressional probe into things at Indiana University. Is that the role of Congress, to engage a probe into what's happening in a student government on a college campus?
I don't see why not, Tony. I mean, Indiana University receives millions of taxpayer dollars from the federal government. And in this case, I take reports of anti-Semitism very seriously, especially at a publicly funded university in my home state, that being Indiana University. So I'm sure that President Whitten will respond, and I'm sure that she and I will have a healthy dialogue about what more can be done at IU or other universities in the state of Indiana to make sure that our Jewish students feel safe. I think that's very important. That's why I wrote the letter, and I look forward to her response.
If I'm asking you, what else should be done, do you have ideas or thoughts about what else should be done?
I do, Tony. I've called on the Biden administration to send any student who is here on a visa on college campuses who has spoken out in favor of the violent acts of Hamas to be sent back to where they came from. That's the first thing that can be done. That and a sensible thing that can be done to make our college campuses feel more safe, as many students who are here on visas to attend our American universities who speak out in favor of Hamas, they should be sent back to the countries that they come from. That's the first thing that we can do. And then the second thing we can do is codify the Trump administration's anti-Semitism executive order that he signed while he was president, that restricts Title IX public funding to universities who don't do enough to combat anti-Semitism on college campuses. So those are two things that we can do. I've co-sponsored that bill. I think Mike Lawler, congressman from New York, is the author of that legislation. So those are two things that Congress can do. But at the same time, it's having this conversation with leaders and administrators from college campuses, especially in our home state, about what more can be done there is something that leaders at the state level and the federal level need to engage in more as well. And that's what I'm doing.
Would it be, what would the response be if someone like Pam Whitten, the president of IU, said to you, Congressman, you have a Congress filled lousy with Jew haters, from Congressman Andre Carson right here in Indiana to Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Ocasio-Cortez, Ayanna Pressley, Congressman Jamal Bowman, and a host of others. Maybe you should focus on Congress and let me worry about the campus.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be her response. That's not her style. Her style is productive, and I'm sure she'll want to engage in a healthy dialogue with me as a member of Congress on where we can work together to combat these issues. That's my expectation. But Tony, you're pointing out something that's very important. The American left in this country has abandoned a longtime key constituency of their party, that being the Jewish voters in this country. They have long abandoned that key constituency, and you're seeing evidence of that play out in the country right now as they turn a blind eye to these issues. That's happening everywhere. You pointed out the squad in Congress. I mean, the behavior of the squad, the anti-Israel, anti-Semitic actions, behavior, and language that they use in the nation's capital is something that we're seeing happen all over the country, and it's time that we do more to combat it.
Congressman Jim Banks of the Indiana 3rd District, Republican candidate for Senate in the state of Indiana. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us, get back to work doing important things. And my thanks to you for being a part of what we do over here. And my thanks to Americans for Prosperity, AmericansForProsperity.org, economic liberty, free speech. These are the good things. And from what I'm told, we had a pretty good debate party. I know it's debates, whatever. We're going to do it again. I think we're going to do it again. So I'll get the cigars ready and you just show up. I'll get you more information on that. I promise. Find everything going on at TonyKatz.com. Do that as well. And I will catch you next time. Take care.